The Wrong Missy is directed by Tyler Spindell and stars David Spade, Lauren Lapkus, and among others. And this is the latest Happy Madison production film that has been released on Netflix. And it features David Spade playing a guy that basically goes on a blind date with this girl named Miss Melissa, who calls herself Missy. And at first glance, when on their first date that they have, it ends up becoming a disaster for him, and he basically starts to like move on and not really ever talk to her after that. And then eventually he meets this other woman that's also named Melissa, and they get connected and everything. They start to get to know each other and everything, and things basically seem to go right. And then pretty much, as you can see from the trailers, there's an incident that happens where he goes on a business trip to Hawaii, and while he's on the way, he was supposed to have the actual Missy he's supposed to be having go with him to go to the actual location after they were texting each other from going on after she gives him his number, and turns out that basically it becomes a switch because the other one, the obnoxious one, is now the one that basically gets who goes with him on the plane to the actual trip, and it becomes a series of shenanigans as it unfolds.
Yeah, basically what he did was he accidentally put the two Missies in the wrong name and he didn't pay attention. So when he texted that one Missy thinking, hey, you want to go with me on a trip? And she ends up ends up being the wrong one.
Yeah.
So,
And
yeah.
now here's some backstory. Now, this was the latest film that was released from Happy Matter Productions, which is Adam Sandler's company. And I'll admit that over the years that the Happy Madison production films have been actually hit and miss for me. There are some great ones that I do fully remember growing up with and actually enjoying with that had Adam Sandler in when he first started out with the company with and everything. And there were some other ones that even the ones that Adam Sandler wasn't in that got me into his comedies, like Good Grandma's Boy, I Never Touch You, Chuck and Larry, some other comedies that were also not with Adam Sandler that I enjoyed with, and they've been.
He was in. He was in now. Pronounce you Chuck and Larry.
That's what I'm saying. Like the overall movies that are involved with Happy Madison Productions, I've been hit and miss with, but some of those and some other ones like Mr. Deeds, Click, and all of them, I still like them. And then there's been some other ones that don't have Adam Sandler in it, like the Bench Warmers and other ones that I still tend to like. But then there was that period of time when I think it was like the late 2000s or so when as time went on, there were starting to get other movies in that company that were basically becoming pretty fucking bad from what I heard. I think it all started with Jack and Jill in 2011, when after that point, with Adam Sandler dudding with that movie, they had other. And it really wasn't until about 2016 when I saw a recent Happy Madison film called The Do Over that was also released on Netflix that I actually did enjoy. That one had that David Spade and Adam Sandler in it,
Yeah.
and so going into this one, it kind of had me interested because it looked like it was going for like a traditional David Spade type of comedy, like he used to do with Chris Farley in the '90s with.
Yeah. See, I've been a big fan over the years with the Adam Sandler and Happy Madison production. I was a diehard fan growing up, watching his earlier stuff like Billy Madison, Happy Gilmore, Waterboy, Longest Yard, Wedding Singer, etc. And I've always loved his earlier stuff. I mean, he was at his prime with his early. And then, yeah, I would say roughly around the Jack and Jill incident is where it kind of started really collapsing. And around whenever that happened, I think Jack and Jill pretty much killed his self career, so to speak, to where he signed a deal with Netflix to start making countless of movies.
No, however, it was actually Pixels.
There has been a movie here and there that I actually like that people don't like. I enjoyed both the grown-up films. I think they still hold up as good family movies. I personally also like. I'm going to catch flack for this. I'm one of the few that liked That's My Boy. I thought it was funny. So other than that, I will agree with everything else. Ridiculous, or not ridiculous. Yeah, it was Ridiculous Six and all that. I highly agree. This motherfucker hit rock bottom with all his movies. And other than a do-over, a lot of them are pretty fucking boring and just uninteresting. So
Yeah.
when I saw trailers to this film, which by the way, didn't even know this movie existed until like 2 weeks ago, or 3 weeks or 4 weeks ago. And when I saw the trailers, I'm gonna have to go in with low expectations on every film he releases on Netflix. And
Yeah.
honestly, like the one from last year, which we missed, I had that feeling like wondering if I'm gonna have time to get to it. I don't rush out to a lot of his newer shit on Netflix. I don't know. I just lost a lot of sense of his material. His company
Yeah.
does.
Yeah, but that's the other thing too with David Spade. I actually have, even when he started doing like his solo career, when he started doing movies like Joe Dirt and all them, I actually found him actually having a lot of promise doing that kind of stuff. And for a short period, it seemed like he was also going into that kind of level. Because when I'll admit I like Joe Dirt, and I even like that other one he was in called The Benchwarmers and all that. So the movies that don't have Adam Sandler in, I still think they have likable ones I like. And so with this one coming out, it got me curious because it seemed like with this one, it seemed like David Spade was going back to his original roots of playing more the straight man instead of the more like, the more like goofy type of one that he's played in like the last other comedies that he's been in recently.
Whenever I saw the trailers to it, the one thing that did pique my interest was what I saw in the trailers and what I heard from reviews was David Spade going back to the old days where he kind of played like the settledy kind of guy, like he did with Chris Farley, where he's kind of like around somebody that's like Chris Farley, but
The
not as good.
obnoxious type.
Yeah, but just like it's different from his type, where he's playing more of the straightforward, pissed off, like, oh, you're ruining everything type guy. So I was interested to see that because I think he stopped doing that after Chris Farley's death. And ever since then, after Chris Farley's death, when he did Joe Dirt and all that, he always played the kind of like what Rod Snyder was doing, where he's playing like, I'm a dumb, the raunchy comedy dumbass, the idiotic guy of all the movies. And like you said earlier, I also enjoyed some of the solo films, like Grandma's Boy is like one of my all-time favorites. I love that fucking movie. I can always watch that movie any day.
Yeah.
But anyways, yeah. So I went in low expectations with the film, but I did hear somewhat of a buzz, which was quite the surprise. So decided to put it in, watch, and lo and behold, I will say that it was better than expected, but I still think it suffers from the Netflix flaws, the Happy Madison Netflix flaws that we see in a lot of his low budget films. And so I'm kind of mixed with this movie, but overall, a lot better than being a piece of shit.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah, I had that expectation myself going into it. And after upon seeing it, I will honestly say that it was actually quite an enjoyable time. I think that I laughed and I had a good time with it. It's not like it still has the same problems I've heard from like some of the other traditional Happy Madison films do, but
Yeah.
it still has that likability to it that I actually kind of got into.
Yeah, like I said earlier, it was better than expected, and it was compared to a lot of his film. It had a lot more likability, a lot more watchability too. So yeah, getting my pros, I will say that I'm actually really glad that David Spade went into this role with more subtlety. It was nice seeing something different. It made me think of the old times with Chris Farley. I did enjoy that, and I thought his performance was good. I like the whole serious man around the nutcase of that girl, which I'm hit and miss with her. She had some funny stuff, and then there were some very subtlety moments at the end with her I enjoyed. But I did like how they tried to do that whole Chris Farley take in, because I think that was some of David Spade's best movies. To this day, other than Joe Dirt.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the performances were good. I will not. I mean, it's Happy Madison, so he brought in a lot of his old school people, like the guy with the fucked up eyes, Nick Swardson, which looks fucking old, and he looks like he's gained a lot of weight. He didn't look right at all in this movie. So you're not going to get A+ performances out of this.
Right.
I mean, it's Madison on Netflix. So, but for what it's worth, people were likable in the movie.
Yeah, I agree, and I did really enjoy David Spade in this. I thought he brought it was good seeing his settledness and his he had some funny moments, and I liked his chemistry with the girl. I thought it played out pretty well, and I actually got to give a lot of credit to the main girl. While there are some scenes that were a little out there for the most at some points, I did think that she really was on a whole other level, and I've seen that girl before. She was actually one of the guards from. She played one of the prison guards in Orange is the New Black. So I've seen her in stuff, and I'm glad to see that. I think that she might have an actual career going forward doing this type of comedy level. And
yeah,
I think
you don't want her to always do that, and then you get it gets old after a while.
true, but when it's on the right script and when it's on the right kind of timing and everything that follows a comedy, I think she probably does have potential going forward with that kind of material. And I thought she was a lot of fun. And I will admit that the movie had me actually laughing throughout that more than I thought. Especially there were one of my biggest laugh out moments, surprisingly, was the part where they're on this boat and they're having to basically look for basically do what's a Shark Week type of approach, because David Spade's on a business trip with his boss, and the crew are basically doing this kind of doing these weird performances or something.
What it is they go you can do them when you go to Hawaii or Florida or whatever, but basically they order a ship to take them out, and they go in cages, and they go and see if they could go underwater, sit in these cages, and see if there are sharks. That's basically what they were doing.
Yeah, and what I was going to say was that it was the novelty of. I actually thought it was kind of cool seeing Adam Sandler's buddies from his other Happy Madison movies come back, and then I thought that it was a nice novelty seeing them again, and also I'm not going to lie, I actually did kind of laugh when Rob Schneider showed up. I thought that his reactions, like when the girl is trying to go after David Spade, and she basically is trying to go in the water and try to sneak up in to the boat, and it kind of plays out like a shark. His reactions when she comes up I just thought was pretty funny, and he actually was kind of fun to see again.
Yeah, Rob Schneider, he always plays. I swear, there's like 5 characters where it took place in the fucking ocean or Hawaii, which is one of Adam Sandler's favorite settings. And Rob Schneider is always playing that fucking dude. The same dude. You can almost say they could be in some kind of universe where they're all related cousins or something.
Well, in 50 First Dates, he played a character that was living on Hawaii, and in that movie, he was a guy that he had one eye, and he had a shark bite him. And in this movie, he says that his hand got bit off by a shark, and it was like, it almost seems like you're playing like he's like a distant relative of that character. I'm like, but it was still funny seeing him.
Yeah, some of my other pros I like to add, like you said, the chemistry between him and the main girl was worked. It did work. Aside from some of the humor I will get into, there was some stuff I did laugh at, and there were some very genuine parts towards the end, which, I mean, that's one of my other issues. It's very formulated. It's get to the point type of movie, like you see on Netflix and Adam Sandler movies, but you get the whole, like you see in raunchy romantic comedy levels of movies. You see the down part where you get the emotional part out of the character. And I will say, even though I've seen it 1,000 times, when it gets that part, it was kind of cool to see her settle down. It was kind of like calm. It was a calmness, because she can get you a little bit anxiety in the movie because she is fucking hyper.
Yeah.
So hyper. But I'll tell you, she's got some good quips coming at you. So she would be good to see in some other good raunchy comedies. I mean, I think she would be pretty funny. What she did here was kind of funny, as playing the obsessed, we're not together girlfriend, but she is a girlfriend, so to speak,
Yeah.
forcing things on them. But I will say that the story is pretty generic. It's, again, we go to Hawaii. It's forced into their setting. It's very generic form, but for what we were given, it was still funny. There's a lot of sex jokes in there, so there's a lot of whacking off scenes that
Yeah.
can get kind of rinse and repeat, where you're like, okay, we're back to square one with Adam Sandler and his company doing the same shit. But some of it, for some reason, I don't know what it was made me laugh.
It did.
Why?
Yeah, it was also it definitely was pretty. It did have me rolling in a lot of in certain scenes too with that. One of my other favorite parts of the movie was the part where they're doing that weird shadow thing where they're doing that presentation or whatever, and they have those like mocap suits on where they're doing like shadows. They have words like mixed up or something, and like where it says shart instead of or instead of whatever it was, but basically it turns out to be a different word.
Supposed to be was like they're doing what it is while they're on this trip, you have David Spade's character who is taking on basically this other girl. They got two sections to see who will get the promotion as president of the company, and they're doing this talent show. And yeah, they do that thing where they're in the shadows and they misspell a bunch of fucking words. They're not on David Spade's people is not on par with a lot of shit. And the part that had me fucking laughing was whenever I guess the person farted or was trying to do something, and a fucking ball shoots out. It looks like shit.
Yeah.
And you see the person holding his butt cheeks, like, oh shit. And then they you see it like stuff in the ass, and you see some brown shit spray. Oh my god, there was some stuff that we would bitch about in raunchy comedies, but I don't know, just the way they were doing it and the way it was so silent, it was just fucking hilarious. Kind of remind me of that of Austin Powers, where they do the scene where they're behind the curtain and they're doing dirty shit. So that's what I don't know. It made me laugh. So I did. That was one of my favorite parts of the movie.
Yeah.
So
Now we get into pretty much our cons, and I'll say that like you were saying, the story it is pretty by the numbers. Like with traditional romantic comedies, you pretty much know where the story is going to go with it and everything, and it's nothing really new because they don't really it's really a generic plot with really nothing to roll home about. Because the biggest thing that I've heard was that with a lot of Happy Madison productions is because this is known for with Adam Sandler's movies in the past is that he basically makes it to where his movies are shot on different tropical areas and they make a movie around it. It's basically like he takes his buddies on vacation and does a whole movie centered around it with really no plot, basically. That's kind of what it does with this, but it's hard to describe because it has a likability, but you can still see the same tropes that he's known for with this.
exactly. It's by the numbers. You've seen a lot of comedies like this, especially from Happy Madison. This is I believe, thinking right now, this is the 5th Hawaii setting Happy Madison movie. And when there's that many movies that your company did or you directed or whatever you want to say, and it takes place kind of like in similar areas, you start questioning the rinse and repeat of the entire films of what you keep doing, because it's the shit, the do-over, 51st dates. I can keep going on. I mean, it feels like the same shit, and it is. I mean, in like romantic comedies, it ends. You predict the downfall, you predict the happiness at the end. Then the girl that you think that you did love because she was so hot and successful, but then you fell in love with the dorky girl at the end. I mean, I'm not spoiling anything. You know how this goes. So with that, I mean, that's where I have a problem with a lot of these type of movies. And also it didn't help that Happy Madison, the way that they put their I noticed one thing that bothers me about their Netflix films more than any of their live action theater movies. They don't, because he has a contract. He has to meet this contract. And I notice there's not a lot of effort put in a lot of shit. So some of the effortness of what this could have maybe went to, or could have gotten, more money spilled into it, could have looked better and had better, stuff other than the generic plot we were given. And I think it was just nothing more than, I got to make a movie by this time and hurry and get it out. And you can tell because it's pretty fucking rushed, because this movie's only an hour and 30 minutes, I believe, with credits.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean,
movie.
They are. They're about what you. Yeah, you can tell it looks a lot rushed when the way it's handled and the way that a lot of scenes go by and everything. So that is one of the problems that I noticed with, hearing from some of the other like Netflix type of movies with that as well. With that, the Happy Madison movies are on Netflix or on.
Another trope, kind of like how we said that we saw Rob Schneider playing the same guy. What is it with that guy with the fucked up eyes? He always plays like that. Does the guy does he look like that in real life?
I don't know, but that's another thing too. It was kind of cool seeing that guy again, because it's been a while since I've seen him in any other Happy Madison movies that I've seen like that of recent years. So
back, yes, but it's like a lot of the characters feel the fucking same.
Yeah, it's like they're
thing. I'm like, where his eyes all twisted, all fucked up and stuff. So yeah, I mean, there's just a lot of. I noticed there was a lot of like pointless like closures to a lot of things because they're so focused on David Spade and the girl more. Like, the girl he was battling with the for president, pretty much fell out of nowhere after their talent show. And it's like, where does she fucking go other than trying to ruin the relationship? They left a huge gap with that one girl that he got mixed up with, the one that was pretty. She came at the end. You would have thought that if they would have put more money into it, it would have been probably nice to see the good Missy and the bad Missy in that whole battle.
Yeah, it would have had potential there. Now, the other problem I will say too that the movie has is, I mean, it's typical with a lot of comedies like this that are having to do that whole like, I don't want to use the word suspension of disbelief, but they go for that whole goofball-esque feel, believability. There are certain points in the film where some of the stuff that she does, I kind of find question like, okay, how the fuck would you survive something like that? Or how are you going to tell me that's the reason why that's going to happen? Like that whole scene where she falls off that fucking cliff. I'm like, for a fact she would break every fucking bone in her body.
You see this in comedies a lot, and especially with Happy Madison. He loves
pratfalls.
People shit. And in this film, she falls off what looked to be probably 100-foot cliff. She bangs her head on a boulder. That would have killed her right there with the speed of the fall. Then the way she bent around with her back on that fucking tree limb that's hanging out of the cliff, that would have killed her. And then she falls straight down where the water recedes, and she lands on fucking ground. I'm sorry, you're dead. And then they also like to do the over the top injury, like where David Spade's leg is so twisted around, that would have been broke. Instead, let me fix that, and then he's fixed. It's like shit like that just bothers me. I don't care if it's not meant to be serious; still bothers me. Like I said, another thing I had an issue with. Majority of the time, I did like the girl. Then there was the times I was getting annoyed. She was too loud and obnoxious in some scenes. Some of the crude humor was just like that part where she's like, "Oh, I gotta take a shit," "Oh, I gotta," just stuff like that. I'm just like, it's not funny. It really isn't.
There are certain quips that she does, or certain like stuff that she's done that I didn't think was funny. Like that whole part where she falls in that weird bush or whatever, and she gets like covered in mud or whatever. That I thought was stupid. And then, there was some of the lines that she said here and there that were just like they weren't as like timed right like they were in some other scenes. Because when the timing's there and it is funny, she does it pretty well for comedic timing. It's just that some other scenes, some of the jokes, they fall flat on some of the actual lines that they're given and things like that.
Yeah. Other than that, I will say for the overall film, because every one you do watch when it comes to Happy Madison, unfortunately, is like fucking shit. I was on that standpoint, I was actually pleasantly surprised it wasn't shit. It was just standard. So with that being said, I'm going to give this film, surprisingly, I'm going to be nice because the fact that they actually put a little effort, even though they could have put more effort. I'm going to give this film a high average Joe in the Film Freaks meter.
I agree. I'm going with a high average Joe on the Film Freaks meter as well. So for those of you who have also seen The Wrong Missy, let us know in the comments below what you thought about it. Stay safe, and we'll see you in our next review. We'll see you later.